Hello everyone. No advice is one size fits all. And that is something that is very important to think about when we are pondering the 16 types and the 8 cognitive functions as those of you who watch me do. I'm going to give you an example, and then this is more so just to get you thinking about the way that you react to advice, and the types of advice that you like to receive, the types of advice that's actually useful for you, and the types of advice that is not so useful. So one of the main reasons why I'm even passionate about personality type is because I think that it really opens up a lot of doors for personal development and obviously improving interpersonal dynamics as well. But for example, if you were to give advice and say, you don't owe anyone anything, you need to just put yourself first and stop thinking that you owe people things. Like if you were to say, you don't owe anyone anything, and give that as advice, that advice is going to land completely differently to an ENFJ compared to, say, an ISTJ or even an INFP. Because I personally think that advice sort of encourages FI. And if you already do value FI, or if you already have your biggest weakness being your bad FE, which, I mean, these things go somewhat hand in hand, then it's not really going to help. Now an INFP might hear that and be like, yeah, I know that, or something, or like, yeah, I know I don't owe anyone anything, or I'm not quite sure, but like someone with higher FI might, just take that as a given, and it might not even really work as advice. But an ISTJ, for example, or an INTJ might hear that advice and use it as an excuse to not grow, and as an excuse to not sort of develop their feeling side or not compensate for their FE blind spot. So, and I also wanted to share, I guess, that my ENFP friend Crystal, who a lot of you guys may know from my channel, she told me once before something that I will always remember, and that is she was like, stop worrying about sounding like a bitch, because when coming from your voice, if you say what you think is going to sound bitchy, it's probably not going to sound as bitchy as somebody else. And some of this might have to do with, me being a Cancer rising and a Cancer Mercury. So not all ENFJs, I'm not trying to say that no ENFJ has ever been like bitchy, but so her advice in particular was tailored to me, but the principle still stands that I'm an FE Dom, and I think that we all sort of fear our inferior function. Like if we develop it, that we're gonna go completely off the deep end and lose our main self. And like for me, learning that it is okay to, one, set boundaries, and also be a little bit more critical of the people around me, and like to, announce my boundaries and put myself first and realize I don't owe people things, and like all of that sort of stuff. For me to do that, it was not going to sound like rude coming from me, if that makes sense, because I'm already doing all the FE stuff. So my behavior is in the context of who I am as a person all the time. So actually, as an example, my sister is an ESFJ, and one of her roommates was not cleaning her dishes and just leaving all the dishes around. My sister actually sent me a long text, or first she said, let me know if this sounds mean or not. And it was this long text of like what she was going to send to her roommates and be like, hey, I love you, and I know that you aren't trying to get in my way or get in anyone else's way, but we all share these dishes. It would be one thing if you weren't doing the dishes and it wasn't also my dishes, but you need to clean them because it's finals week or whatever, and I was expecting to come home really quick and make macaroni and cheese, and now I might be late for class because your dishes are dirty. And I know everyone's busy, not trying to accuse anyone. Like, she was like being very nice about it in the message. And I thought it was so cute that my sister then texts me and asks, was I being too mean? Was I being too confrontational? And then she also apparently, she knew it was just one girl that was always the messy one. But she sent it in a group chat so that nobody felt like that she was attacking them. And then she sent her other friend and was like, hey, I'm sorry that I sent this to you. I know it wasn't you. I just see that these are all the extent that an FE dom is going to put into making sure that what they have to say is going to land well and that it's going to seem nice or whatever. And that is an example from an FE dom of her being like, does this sound mean? Does this sound bitchy? And like, I so relate to that. I'm a little bit more confrontational, especially about something like that. But in general, the sort of, everyone is a little bit crazy, about their dominant function. So I'm assuming that, from your perspective, you're probably looking at it like, no, that doesn't sound mean. Why do you think that sounds mean? You put so much effort into sounding nice. You could put a little effort into being clear and concise and blunt even. Because something's blunt doesn't mean that it's mean. And so, as you can see, there's like all this effort putting into the FE and just a little bit of effort into the TI. It's just sort of like, if you put a little bit of effort, it's not going to completely get rid of all of the effort that you're always putting in your dominant function. So we got to remember, as I was saying, advice isn't one size fit all, but also the pendulum is not going to swing completely in the opposite direction. If you're an FI dominant person and you are always putting yourself first, thinking about others is not going to completely ruin your self-understanding. Or if you're an SJ and you are super meticulous and careful about the way you live your life and you have a very strong foundation built, being a little bit risky sometimes and putting yourself into new environments isn't going to ruin everything that you've built, and there's advice, there's cliche advice that we've probably all heard that some of it might not have sit well with you, or maybe you've seen the way that other people have used that advice as like a way to stay stuck. But I really see it as a very dynamic process, as everyone has all these different cognitive functions that growth is a different direction for different people. So if we can be open-minded to this fact, my goal eventually would be to actually develop a blueprint for which advice for which people, to actually map out that growth path. Because I think that sometimes we can take advice that we like to hear that isn't actually helping us grow, that is more like a preaching to the choir validation of where you're at, when I would say that we all are trying to become a little bit more well-rounded of people, and where I think that the question more is, who are you and where are you now? That is as opposed to where do you want to go. A lot of advice focuses on the where do you want to go, but doesn't talk as much on where are you now. It doesn't take as much time figuring out where you are now. So there is just some food for thought. If you'd like to join my Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth, that is linked below. I have a Discord server that I'm an attendant on that is linked below. There are a lot of services of mine that are under construction, but if you would like to support me, I do have a Patreon that is below as well. Thank you all for being patient as I have been trying to get back to you. I have a lot of stuff going on with, I am working on a master's right now in psychology, and it's like finals week and I'm going on vacation and stuff, and so I haven't uploaded, and I have in a minute, and I have a lot of things under construction. But thank you for being patient and supporting me and watching this video, and have a wonderful rest of your day.